Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Devin Nunes. Congressman, thanks for joining us. Is that correct? Is there no credible threat against New York City or Washington or anywhere in the U.S.?
No credible threat that we know about, Jake. That's the real issue here, is that because so many of the terrorists have gotten good at their operational security, we just don't know what we don't know. And so there's nothing specific except for the threats that they've been putting out there on the internet. So at this point, we have to take everything seriously.
Several terrorists involved in the Paris attacks were apparently known to U.S. authorities. Did the U.S. have any intelligence at all that might have stopped the atrocities?
No, that's the challenge. So you're exactly right. We did have many of these people identified, but there's so many thousands and thousands of them. And they're all over Western Europe and even in the United States. And then with the technology that they're using today and the rules and the lessons that they've learned through fighting us over the last 15 years, they've gotten very good at hiding from intelligence services across the globe.
Brussels is on a security clampdown right now. As you know, the threat is deemed so serious that the government shut down the subway, urged citizens not to go to the airport or train station. U.S. citizens are being told to shelter in place. What can you tell us about this threat and why it's being taken so seriously?
I actually just spoke to a friend of mine over there about an hour ago. What they're reporting on the news is that some of the local news there is that a few of the fugitives, possibly one of the fugitives that was involved in the attack in France, they believe he's in Belgium somewhere. So they're asking people to stay in place, not try. They have I think all the public they closed down. Like you said, the subways closed down. So hopefully they can track, the Belgian authorities can track this fugitive down and bring him to justice.
The New York Times is reporting that the investigation into the Pentagon possibly falsifying intelligence reports or finessing them from Iraq about ISIS is expanding. The accusation being that intelligence officials were saying that the U.S. air campaign was not being as effective and ISIS was much stronger than everyone thought, and that it was being finessed so that by the time it got up to the president or Secretary of Defense level, they were getting reassuring views. Have you seen any evidence that that's happened?
Well, we are involved in this investigation. We're working closely with the House Armed Services Committee and the Defense Appropriations Committee, and we're trying to gather all the facts. So we've heard from a lot of whistleblowers and other informants who have given us information, and not just related strictly to the latest allegations, Jake. These go back for 4 years. And I'll tell you, it's really from the members on the Intelligence Committee. We travel to many of these countries, and we meet with the people on the ground. And it's almost all the time what we hear and see on the ground when we talk to the folks that are actually doing the work, and then what we see in finished intelligence product. And I think more alarming, what we hear the president and his senior officials saying to the public. It just doesn't jive with what they're saying in public and what we see on the ground.
Well, what are you seeing on the ground?
Well, specifically, you look at ISIS, right? So ISIS being contained. We didn't go in and go after ISIS until 2 reporters got their heads cut off. And then the president said, well, this is our strategy. We challenged the White House and the advisors that, well, this looks like a containment strategy. This looks like mission creep. And they said, well, no, this is not a containment strategy. Well, then just a week ago, right before these Paris attacks, the President of the United States goes on and says, well, our containment strategy is working. And what we've been saying is, if you want to track down, kill, and defeat ISIS, if you only have a containment strategy within Iraq and Syria, you really don't understand the problem. Because North Africa is full of ISIS fighters. At the same time, you have al-Qaeda growing in numbers. So the president, to have a successful strategy, is going to admit that they've got it wrong, and they need to relook at a larger strategy that deals with North Africa, the Middle East, all the way over to Afghanistan, Pakistan, and then work closely with our NATO allies with what appears to be a command and control structure that ISIS has created successfully in Europe.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard said this week on CNN that the U.S. needs to temporarily suspend the visa waiver program between the U.S. and Europe that allows Europeans just to come in to this country without applying for visas. Given that the attackers, the terrorists, were largely Europeans, not refugees, does her proposal make more sense in some ways than what the House passed, limiting or blocking, really, Syrian refugees?
Well, what the House passed is definitely needed because from the information that I see, and if I was in the shoes of ISIS or Al-Qaeda, I would definitely try to get people into these types of refugee programs. So the House legislation is needed. I agree that there needs to be a longer look at what needs to happen in the long run with the visa waiver program and who's allowed to get into the United States. But that's going to take more time. But in the short term, we can put in so that the FBI and other intelligence agencies would have to clear who gets into this country. I think it's a very small ask, and why the president is opposing it seems a little deaf to me.
All right, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, Congressman from California, thanks so much. We appreciate it.